In the interest of time, I want to get started, and we're going to get started with Friday Facts. And we always like to meet people during Friday Facts, and especially exciting and interesting people in the field, and in this case, newer in the field. I'm super excited to introduce you all. A few of you already have met her and have been working with her because this is the last day of her internship with us. And so it's always nice to have our graduate student interns spend a few minutes with you at the coalition, if you haven't met her before, to learn about what she's been working on. So, with no further ado, welcome to Destiny Coe.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well on this Friday. I prepared a little presentation, so I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Oh, I love that. I get to sit back.
Let's see here.
See, you can already see she's super prepared, wonderful intern. Karen and I have worked very closely with Destiny, so
Let me. Yes, I will say it has been a great experience. I've learned a lot. This space was completely new, and I'm really excited to apply this knowledge in really every area of life. So
great.
I
Oh,
found out some interesting things.
and I'm already interrupting you. So we see your presenter slides, which could be fun,
Okay.
but it's smaller, so you may want to do the whatever it's called. I know it messes you up, but
Yeah,
the
let me.
yeah.
hmm, Sorry about that.
No, that's great. And it's good because more folks are joining us. And people, feel free in the chat. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, just where you're from, just so that way Destiny and others, we have some newer folks on the call as well as some long-term members, so that way people get a sense of who's joining us today. We've got a nice eclectic group from different areas of North Carolina.
Okay, we're going to try this again in the interest of time, hopefully.
All right. Well, we see that nice and big, or at
Okay,
least I
may
do.
have to wing it. I don't think the presenter view will work, so we'll just go right on through.
Okay.
Okay, so safe space.
It is a very
Um,
safe space. Oh, yeah. And it's a safe space and a save space, however you want to do it.
so I'll go ahead along. So this is just a summation of my practicum experience. So the previous intern, Catalia, she presented on the landscape analysis and environmental scan, and she gave a little bit of background information on what this was. And this was a research project aimed to understand the services for caregivers in North Carolina and the gaps in those services. And so there was inventories of relevant resources and services by each county in North Carolina and focuses on disparities between counties and regions, which we may see a little bit of a snapshot of later. So previously, the intern had 10 different North Carolina counties, and I was able to get us to 26. So there's a little bit of then and now. So before those were the counties that were captured, and this is what we are at now and what we were able to add. So this is representative of tier one, tier two, and tier three counties, with tier one counties being on the poorer end, and tier three being a little bit more economically stable, and tier two being somewhere in the middle. And this is a urban and rural mix. And so, as far as our inclusion and exclusion criteria, this was also expressed earlier. The inclusion being that the resource has to have a direct benefit to caregivers and be local. And with the exclusion criteria being something that would include housing options such as long-term care and assisted living, in-home health services, hospital and healthcare offices, and services that support a care recipient with, again, no direct caregiver benefit. And so this was supposed to be oh, it's moving. Okay. So this was Robeson County, and this is near and dear to me because this is my home county. Little bit of technical difficulties here. Um, but what you would have seen, let me see if I can do it this way instead. So we mentioned earlier the disparities that exist between urban and rural. So I wanted to do Robinson again because it was my home county, but also I know the lack of resources there. But doing it from this caregiver space point of view and only seeing one was really interesting to me. Robinson only had one, and it had the least amount out of all the counties that we did and performed this analysis on. And so this was kind of the category. So the resource name, the primary recipient, type of clients, whether that's older adults, adults with disabilities, or children with disability, the website, the type of services that the resource provides, a little bit more detail about what they provide, the eligibility criteria, and any contact information for each source. And this was done for each county. I just wanted to provide a snapshot of mine here. So let's keep going. So, in doing this, a few takeaways. So, finding resources is not easy, which I think many of us know. It takes a lot. And on top of that, finding ones that you may be eligible for, because it's not always clear when looking. It is more difficult to find resources for those caring for children. I noticed I didn't see a lot of those. Um, it is important to use simple search terms to kind of gauge. So, we would use searches such as caregiver help in so and so county, something that I would say the average person would search, and not anyone in the academic space who may know, target terms to search for. But what would people who do not have a lot of time, who doesn't really know what to say, what would they search? And usually that would just be something like caregiver help, um, assistance need, something like that. And as expected, large disparity between tier three and tier one counties. We saw that with Robinson only having one resource. And so, secondly, the Land of Sky resource list was something else that was evaluated. So, this was just an analysis of resources provided. Um, Let me do the same thing here. So, I think this was about 200 resources provided in the western part of North Carolina. And I went through and I was able to break down which would be included based on our criteria that we broke down earlier out of the list of resources that they provided. And so I used the key here. So A would mean that they would be included based on the criteria mentioned before. B means potentially, like there may be a little bit of a gray area. And then empty space means it doesn't meet the criteria. And so here you see a little bit of that. You'll say A, B, and blank, depending on what services um, were offered. And a question that came up with Heather and Karen, a question that I raised because I wasn't sure. And grief counselors was something that was coming up a lot on this list. And so I was like, should this or anything similar, should these groups be included? And as we continued to speak, we decided that it would be sort of a different can of worms to open up to include that. And that would go into a little bit of a different space rather than focusing on those that are actively caregiving. While that is super important, that is just sort of a different area that may complicate things a little bit further if it is included with these other resources, like respite care, for example, or support groups. And so I just wanted to give this snapshot here just so I can kind of get some visuals outside of just speaking. I will stop sharing.
Well, is this where I get to start asking you questions to do? And you also were super helpful with the caregiver research network. That was one of your first things you were able to participate in that in-person meeting. But let's take a step back. Introduce yourself and first of all, what graduate program you're in, and you said a little bit about where you're from, but
Mhm.
we always like to take this time just to get to know you, and what brought you to us.
Yeah, sure thing. So let me back up. I'm Destiny Coe. I am in the Gillings program at UNC Chapel Hill online, in the Leadership and Practice concentration for my MPH. I currently work in clinical research, but I have a passion for public health, direct public health. I am from Lumberton, North Carolina, which is in Robeson County, currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I graduated from UNC Charlotte in undergrad, and immediately went into my master's program. I, initially, I may have answered this differently, but now I feel like what brought me here was my own family's experience. I think there are a lot of caregivers in my family, and until recently, when speaking with Heather and Karen and attending the roundtable, they're actually caregivers. And a lot of times we don't know how to put names on that or putting a title on that. People don't really consider it that, not realizing that they are indeed caring for someone. So that's kind of what has me here now. I I feel like I've learned so much. Again, I was completely new to this end of things. So it's been rewarding and interesting to see how difficult it is in these spaces for a lot of caregivers. So I feel inspired and ready to learn more from everyone.
Well, good. That's exciting. And feel free if any of our audience members here have questions, feel free. But I know, and as we were saying before we started the recording, tell us what's next for you. And this is also your way. We are all over the state, and there are some folks here that are in the Charlotte area. How can we help you with whatever you think is the next journey, the next right step, to quote Frozen?
And transparently so, I think that's to be determined. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll be completely honest. Um, but I definitely would want to continue being in these spaces with you all. I think it's important to be teachable. And so I want to continue to learn more and kind of see what happens and what I can learn, whether that's working directly in the space or just being a part of it in another way.
And you graduate in August, you shared.
Yes.
And unlike other students that we get a mix of students, and you're one of the ones since you do have a full-time job right now, right? So you're not hustling for a next job, but this is where we love to have interns where we can open up, and you've been wonderful in terms of just being open to new experiences, learning about things specifically within the caregiving space as part of the serious illness space across the life course. And so we are thrilled to be a part of your journey. But just know that you have a group of us here that really now feel invested in next steps for you. So, however we can help, and I know that you've done the most with Karen and myself, and you did a real a lot of independent research work as you all just got a little bit of a taste to help us move. I know we had a goal with the landscape analysis project. I'm not sure when the date was, but I know we had a goal. Wouldn't it be nice to get to 50 counties at some point within the next year? So the fact that you were able to get us to 26 counties, again, this is a research project. It's not meant to be the go-to inventory for the state. This is more of a snapshot about what's there, and you've really helped to continue that search. Yes, Karen.
You knew I'd have to say something.
I was waiting.
Destiny, first of all, it's been such a pleasure to work with you. And once again, I feel like Heather has spoiled us with amazing interns. Every time she introduces us to people in the caregiving space, the interns have been just really, really a pleasure to work with, and you are one of us. Um, and I do have to say, I mean, what one of the things I've loved about you and Catalia also did this, where you bring things to us and have us ask us questions that then make us look at this a little bit differently. And I think that's where it really has helped to have people outside the caregiving space come into it and look at it with fresh eyes. And I think you did a great job of summarizing that and how hard it is when you're a caregiver. And to your point, a lot of people don't even identify as that. So when they go to search for something, it is complicated and it's you don't know what you don't know. So I think the other thing that Destiny has helped us do as far as like looking at our criteria is to then look at each of those counties that she was able to add to the list. And what we're now at a quarter of the hundred and I mean, the 100 counties. And we're going to actually go in and refine some of those again to say, okay, if you're just doing a quick search, here's what you get. One thing that I know we've talked about is I really think that with AI becoming such a big thing and that it's so easy now to get on even just Google and do AI mode, where if as we plug in the more detailed prompts that AI asks you to, I think we're going to get somewhat different results. But I'm curious, Heather and Destiny and I talked about this. I'm really curious to see what comes up because, as you all know, sometimes AI can be great, and other times it can give you a bunch of stuff that you don't need. So we're really curious to explore this a little bit more. And that's where we get really excited about having this many counties that we can actually go back and look at and really analyze and say, like, if you were a caregiver of an older adult, a disabled person, a child, what would you be, how would you find where you need to get help? And so again, I think Destiny did some great, she had some great questions about things like she said, like grief counselors. We had a conversation about geriatric care managers. It's like, where do all these things fit in? We can't include everything. So it's just been such a pleasure. And I really do I hope you continue to keep in touch with us. I hope you continue to challenge us and then also like you and your family are part of the caregiving group now and I hope that things go well with your family and as they keep us posted if you find that they have lots of questions bring them back to us and let us keep getting better at this.
Mhm.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you and Heather for everything. I had some great leaders.